Since 1965, the New Mexico Constitution calls for a 60-day legislative session in odd-numbered years and a more limited 30-day session in even-numbered years. For additional info, see Article 4, Section 5 of the New Mexico Constitution, which was approved by the voters in the November 1964 general election. In 2019, advocates participated in a 60-day, long legislative session running from mid-January through mid-March, in which new bills were introduced and many were signed into law by the governor. In 2020, however, both the length of the session and the agenda will be more limited. We're going to talk more about the differences in the 30-day short session a little bit later. But first, let's focus on the period in between the regular legislative sessions, which is known as the interim period. Essentially, this is all of the time in between regular sessions when the legislature is not in regular session at the Roundhouse in Santa Fe. During the interim, 25 interim committees and subcommittees conduct hearings in Santa Fe as well as around the state to develop legislation and perform oversight of state government operations. These interim committees are separate from the standing committees which meet during the regular legislative sessions. Note that the Senate Rules Committee, a standing committee, may meet during the interim to conduct confirmation hearings for the governor's appointees. This is the only standing committee of the legislature which is authorized to meet during the interim. The 25 interim committees and subcommittees are each composed of a mix of Senate and House members appointed by the Legislative Council, and are structured with both voting members and advisory members. As suggested by the name, advisory members do not vote on committee actions. Chairs of these committees rotate between the Senate and the House every 2 years. In general, interim committees meet for hearings 2 to 3 days each month and are supported by Legislative Council Service staff. Each interim committee begins its work by developing a work plan, which is publicly accessible on the New Mexico Legislative website. Interim committees can endorse legislation by a vote of the voting members. Here's an example of a bill from the 2013 regular legislative session that has an endorsement by the Legislative Finance Committee, one of the 25 interim committees and subcommittees. An endorsement of a bill by an interim committee shows that the bill was vetted by the interim committee prior to its introduction in a regular session. Like all other bills introduced in a regular session, however, it is still subject to debate, amendment, or substitution during the regular session. The public is welcome to observe the interim hearings, but public comments are optional and at the discretion of the chair. If public comments are not included in the agenda, you can respectfully request to be recognized for comment if you are in attendance. If the agenda is posted in advance, you can also contact the LCS staff to request that public comments be added to the agenda. You'll find many opportunities to engage with legislators during the interim hearings. You can set up a lunch or catch them before or after hearings. Many legislators are away from their home districts during interim hearings, creating social opportunities in the evening as well. Now, let's talk briefly about the 30-day short session and what you can expect from it. An important issue to understand is the limited agenda. Only 3 categories of bills are considered germane for consideration in the 30-day session. First, budget, appropriation, and revenue bills. Second, bills drawn pursuant to special messages from the governor. And third, bills vetoed during the previous regular session. In actual fact, vetoed bills are rarely subject to override and are generally simply reintroduced with changes based upon the governor's comments in the veto message for that bill. The Senate Committees Committee and the House Rules and Order of Business Committee are charged with responsibility for determining the germaneness of legislation submitted for consideration in the 30-day session. Here's an example of a special message from the governor authorizing the introduction of a bill addressing a topic not normally considered germane to a short session. Note that in the lower left-hand corner of the special message that it pertains to a specific bill per the 202 number and the name of the bill sponsor. Here's an example of a determination by the Senate Committees Committee regarding the germaneness of a specific piece of Senate legislation. In this case, the committee determination was that the bill was not germane, and therefore it remained in the Committees Committee for the duration of the legislative session. If a bill is determined to be germane, it will be listed in a committee report of the Committees Committee for adoption by the full Senate and then referral to any other Senate standing committees for a hearing, just as during the 60-day long session. Now let's discuss how you can follow some of the action during the interim period using nmlegis.gov, the New Mexico Legislature website. From the home page, the Committees menu and the What's Happening menu can both provide helpful information regarding interim committees and hearings. Also, under Publications, you can find archived work plans, handouts, and agendas from previous interims. First, let's look at the Committees menu. If you select Committees on the main menu, it'll take you to a display of all of the legislative committees, with the standing committees displayed on the left and the interim committees on the right. Both of these lists are linked to lists of individual committee members and their contact information. If you select What's Happening on the main menu, you'll see a list of upcoming hearings, and it will also provide you with a link to the latest Legislator, which includes hearing schedules and information. Finally, selecting Publications and then Interim from the main menu provides links to archived interim committee work plans, handouts, and agendas from past legislative interims. A publication called Legislator is available under the What's Happening menu. This publication provides hearing schedules and locations as well as a calendar. In addition, you can request to be notified when updates to this publication are made. In conclusion, here are some of the key points from our discussion. The interim process and committee hearings are intended to develop legislation and provide oversight. These are open to the public and provide opportunities to engage in respectful public comments with the approval of the committee chairs. In addition, in preparing for the 2020 30-day session, keep in mind that we will have a limited agenda focused on budget, appropriation, and revenue bills, and bills supported by a special message from the governor. Finally, we hope you'll use nmlegis.gov to help you engage with the interim legislative process.